gonna start today with the first panel discussion. The topic is how the Taiwanese supply chain collaborates with startups. Today we'll be hearing from a brilliant UK startup that has a great experience working with their Taiwanese partner. So now let me introduce each and every of our participants, starting from our moderator, Jerry Young. Jerry is general partner of the Hardware Club, a private community for global hardware entrepreneurs. And this company provides capital investment as well as manufacturing and retail resources to its member. Now let's welcome Jerry Young. Welcome, Jerry. And now I will introduce our panelists, Mr. Fred Chak, Director and founding partner of Blocks. This company created the world's first modular smartwatch. Fred created many award-winning products, and these awards include Red Dot Best of the Best Award, Yellow Pencil, and also Webby Award, etc. So now let's welcome Mr. Fred Chak. Gentlemen, please take your seat. And our next panelist, Mr. Christopher Beck, CTO and co-founder of Reach Robotics, which created world's first intelligent gaming robot. So let's welcome Mr. Chris Beck. Chris, please. And last but not least, Mr. Tristan Russell from the French company Bell. This company specializes in electronic nodes. Please welcome Tristan. All right, we're ready. So Jerry, it's your time.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So I'm Jerry. I'm the general partner of the Hardware Club. And so as the lady introduced, we are the first global community for the early stage hardware startups. And we have currently 170 different startups from 30 different countries, and we invest in about 10% of them. We generally provide resources in manufacturing and retails for our startups. And so today I'm very happy. So we're based in Paris, but we invest globally, and I'm very happy to have not only 3 of our member startups to join us on stage here in Taipei, but also all 3 of them are in our portfolio, so we are their shareholders, we are their investors. And so also coincidentally, I think all 3 of them, each one of them represent a very different vertical. So I'm going to go maybe do a round table and allow them to introduce their own company and their own product a little bit more. And so I think the first one we have is Blocks. Blocks is in the category of smartwatches, but they do a very different smartwatch. So I'm going to let Fred to introduce Blocks a little bit. Fred.
Thank you, Jerry. So we're Blocks. As we just mentioned, we are modular smartwatch. What we're trying to do is we're trying to create a device that is even more powerful compared to your smartphones. Because all other devices on the market now, they have limited functions and features. You can't have as many hardware features as you like. But when you have a modular device, really, like you can have whatever hardware function features, and you swap them in and out, and then just have the features you want and you need. So we are doing quite well. We launched our Kickstarter last year, raised $1.6 million, and we're working with one of the ODM in Taiwan, COMPUTEX. So they have been helping us a lot, and we are going to ship our product this year in September. So
it's pretty cool. Yeah, so I think in case you missed it, so Blocks they did, so he just mentioned they did the Kickstarter campaign last year in September with minimum, let's say they spend like minimum on shooting the video. So that's a very good lesson. If you have a good product, if you have a good crowd following, then you can get by just shooting an amateur video. And they actually closed the campaign with $1.6 million.
Exactly. Something
like that. Yeah.
Exactly.
So maybe later we can talk a little bit about that. We have like 1 hour to kill. Our next startup is also from UK. So they're based in Bristol. And so I'm going to have Chris of Reach Robotics to introduce your product a little bit.
Thank you, Jerry. We are Reach Robotics. We're making a gaming robot, the world's first gaming robot. We're at the intersection between kind of like hardware and software. Our robot is for playing on your phone, playing on a tablet, or hopefully in the future playing on your VR goggles. And we'd like to position ourselves right there in the middle between where hardware meets augmented reality and virtual reality. We're currently at the stage now where we are designing for manufacture, producing parts of tools. We're looking in October to go to Kickstart. Hopefully September, fingers crossed, if our tooling goes well. And yeah, that's where we are.
That's pretty cool. Actually, if you have the internet now, you can search for, go to the YouTube. I think you have a couple of videos on YouTube.
Yes, hopefully right now we're just getting our kind of FE1 kind of tools coming out. So in a few weeks' time, you should actually see our latest prototype, our latest kind of design of the product.
So we made Reach Robotics about a year ago in Bristol, and it took us only like 5 seconds to decide to almost like invest in it. And for those of you here, because many of you are probably Taiwanese or like from Asia, if you're familiar with the movie Ghost in the Shell, so in Chinese it should be 攻壳机动队. And usually there's this robot that was just have 4 legs and just going around carrying the main characters around. It's pretty much that kind of thing, but in a major scale, and it's moving very fast. If you see the video, you see the impact. When I showed the video of Reach Robotics in Japan to an influencer, it took him like 5 seconds. He said, "I wanted this. Where can I get this?" So I think you guys have to deliver absolutely this year in December. That's cool. And then the last one we have, we're based in Paris, but today I only have one French startup with us, but it's an amazing startup. So it's a sensor startup. Tristan is the founder of Aribal, a startup based in south of France, in Grenoble. And so I'll let Tristan introduce your product a little bit. What have you developed and what does it do?
Thank you, Jerry. Yes, so Aribal Technology is developing the first universal and portable electronic nose. So you may have seen different gas sensors in the industry. This one is based on a breakthrough technology that combines optic and biotech, right? I come from the biotech industry. I used to have a biotech company before for 12 years, which I sold to a pharmaceutical lab. And so the combination of technology may help us to give reality to this dream, because recording a smell the same way that you can record an image or a sound has never been done so far. So this is what we are trying to achieve, and we are at a level where we are doing industrialization right now.
Yeah. And so one more thing, so how do you pronounce your company's name in French?
Aribal.
Aribal. So this is usually the French founders, and when they have very French personal names and company names, when they go to conference overseas, they usually have trouble like trying to kind of communicate that. And Tristan's name in French should be Tristan Roussel.
Exactly.
And
Tristan
if it's
Roussel.
in English, it would be Tristan Roussel. And so it's like it's almost impossible to communicate on the phone. It's pretty good. Yeah, so we have pretty good, like I said, we happen to have a very good combination, a trio. So blocks represent wearables. We're still talking about wearables today as a vertical, but it's a very different wearable. And I'm going to Fred talk a little bit about their supply chain. And then we have Reach Robotics, we represent robots. And this robots is not Industry 4.0, but rather consumer robotics, which we, Huawei Club, believe that is actually the main thing. Everybody is talking about Industry 4.0 and industrial robots here in Taiwan. But actually what we're seeing is things like paper and things like Reach Robotics that are being bought and used by consumers. That's gonna be the real big trend. And for the supply chain friends here, if you're with manufacturers or semiconductor or even like all kinds of components, it's time for you to reflect how are you going to adapt to that coming age of consumer robotics. And obviously we have the sensor technology. So we have obviously a lot of sensors today off the shelf where you can get accelerometer, you can get gyrators, but Tristan is actually doing the sensor that is totally out of the semiconductor field. It's totally different. And we're seeing more and more this kind of specialized sensors coming out of everywhere. Their data can fit into different kind of application, and once it's connected to the cloud and everything, you can find a lot of application. But then again, it's not manufactured by the standard, let's say, assembly process here in the electronic firm like Foxconn or Pegatron. So I think the supply chain friends here, you have to figure out a way to how to work with those startups. So speaking about that, let's start with, I think Tristan's startup is actually definitely interested subject for the Taiwanese supply chain. But let's start with Blocks, who is already working with the Taiwanese EMS company. So Blocks, you're working with, Fred, you guys are working with Compel, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, Yeah, so how did you, I know that the process of you guys getting in touch with COMPUTEX is pretty fascinating because usually big firms, they don't, this is a company that has 23 billion worth of annual revenue. They don't want to talk to some kids coming out of, coming out of London. And so how did you guys start with them and you know, just give us a little bit of that rosy stories last year?
So we're really lucky. We was in CES in 2014.
This is last year in 2015.
2 years ago, actually.
2 years ago, okay.
Nearly 2 years ago, 1 year and a half. So we met Qualcomm. Qualcomm in CES, we're really lucky. The head of wearables, the senior director at Qualcomm, he is really interested in our watch. And like the interesting thing is they see strategic value for Qualcomm from our watch. Because they are a sensor chipset company, and our whole idea is making sensors and chipset into an ecosystem. So it's something really fascinated to them. So we have the honor to have Pankaj on our advisory board. Pankaj from Qualcomm bring us to Taiwan and meet with Compal. And immediately Compal catch on to the idea, and they have the same belief with us, with Qualcomm, that this modular device can be the ecosystem, can be the platform, can be the disruptor of how we work with technology, not just smartwatch, not just any device, but to work with technology in general. So Compal also see the strategic value because they are ODM. It's difficult for ODM because you see all ODMs, they work with brands and they basically jump from product to product, and they hope each product is a big success.
So instead of like brands like HP, Compaq, or Sony, where they have a, let's say, specialist in program management and in product management, instead of them, they're getting you, a kid coming out of Imperial College, right?
So it's exciting. So the good thing is we're not just
exciting for you guys. It's a nightmare for the EMS company.
Yes, because for them is why I think why they see value in us is we are not just one product. If you like ODM, if they focus on one product, it could be success or fail. And even if it's a success, it ends there. And they need to bet on the next product. Yeah. But with us, we are a platform. So if we become successful, we are long-term partners with them. And they will be chunking out modules after modules after 3, 5, or 10 years later. So I think it's the vision that they see something in line with the in the roadmap. Qualcomm see that, and Compal see that, and they see us not just as one stop and one product. They see us as something have long-term value for them, and it makes them excited.
So just to be clear, when you guys first engaged with Compal, none of your team knew anything about, like, I don't know, like DVT, PVT, DFM, maybe a little bit of DFM. I'm not even sure. DFT, right?
Yes. So really, like the day before we met,
so like really green, that has absolutely no idea.
We spent like 8 hours in front of a computer Googling all the jargons to make sure we understand what they are going to talk about in the meetings. So it's a learning process. Compal is a big corporation, and they don't used to work with a lot of startups back then. And we're kind of one of the first startups they ever worked with.
We'll probably come back to that later because I think it's an interesting thing where a lot of people assume that big EMS companies like Foxconn, Pegatron, and Quanta, they would never work with an experienced team, which is not true. And we'll come back with that experiences a little bit more to share. I think we have some foreign startups here. But then obviously we have the crazy gaming robots, which is basically as with Reach Robotics. So Chris, I think we did quite a few intros for you guys here in Taiwan, but eventually you guys chose a Hong Kongese partner. And so why don't you give us sort of an overview what throughout the process, how do you narrow down the list, and eventually why did you decide to work with a Hong Kongese company?
So our story kind of semi-starts the same as Frederick's. We're a Qualcomm-backed company. They're one of our VCs behind us. And we had quite a lot of introductions here in Taiwan.
So sorry to interrupt you. I saw the Qualcomm people are just in UK just for the beers. So they actually do stuff there.
Yeah, that's why they're there. But yeah, we had quite a lot of intros here from you guys, from a couple of other people. And we ended up meeting Qualcomm and Quanta. And we were really impressed with Compal. Sorry, I said Qualcomm, Compal. We're really impressed with Compal. We showed up, they brought everyone to the table. They showed us, I think, half the company when we turned up. And they were really engaging. They were kind of really honest. They said where they were, where we were. They were telling us and explaining to us how they're extremely interested in getting into more than just the IoT kind of thing, IoE kind of stuff. They really wanted to get into robotics, consumer robotics. They understand that's an area that's growing. And then they kind of turned around and looked at us, and we'd had back and forth a few times. We'd spoken to them. And then we kind of introduced ourselves after they introduced themselves, and they were kind of like, cool, so you guys are the managers. And we were kind of like, well, we're the managers, we're also the design team, we're the T-boys, we're the whole team.
Just a couple numbers you can give us. So for example, how many in total, how many EMS companies or factories have you initially engaged with? It's like 7 or 8 or?
We sent our quote out to, I think, 8 in the end.
8.
And we went and visited all 8, 2 here in Taiwan.
Yeah.
And then the remaining 6 in China. And the process is quite long from the introduction. So when we started first talking to them and trying to get yourself higher and higher up the email list, basically, of who you talk to.
Yeah.
And then once we then have to sell ourselves to these companies, because we're this unknown risk that the second they start talking to us, we're costing them money.
Yeah.
So we kind of really had to go forward with a big pitch. This is who we are. This is what we want to do. These are the guys behind us. This is where some of the money is.
Yeah.
You've got to trust us. This is going to be a cool brand. And we were really enthused with people like Compow and Quanta. They really kind of got behind it. It was like, yeah, this is cool. This is where we want to be. This is what we want to do. We're going to take some of that trust that you guys have shown us and kind of run with it. And I think that's the most important thing that the big players need, is they need to find a product they like and that they trust.
Yeah.
Because they don't really get a name behind us. You know, we may have a couple of big VCs behind us, but ourselves, we've never had a product out. We're new to the game. And I think they really need to find something that they care about and they think can be really big for them. And that's where they're going to make their kind of money. So it's a lot of trust on their side and a lot of risk. But I guess
we'll come back to that one a little bit later, yeah. So we'll move into Tristan. So Tristan, you're the only B2B startup inside. So B2B by means like with Reach Robotics and Blocks inside our portfolio, they're both like consumer facing, selling to consumers directly. Your product, there's no way you can do a crowdfunding on Kickstarter or Indiegogo. And I also understand a little bit that you actually develop and manufacture the sensors yourself, and then you have to work with the big clients. And so why don't you give us a picture of how it's working right now, what's the manufacturing process, and how do you envision in the long term, how does it work? Yeah.
Sure. Well, it may become a B2B product, but I don't think the public is ready yet, so we'll wait a couple of years before going to Indiegogo or Kickstarter. But at the moment, so there are 2 versions. One is a professional version, very expensive, so we have a lot of money to do it.
How expensive?
A few thousand euros, a few $1,000.
That's not too much. I mean, it's less than a Ferrari.
Yes, but the price of a Volkswagen, let's say. And the other one...
You know what? We'll put it in a Ferrari, and you'll be able to tell if your fits well.
Absolutely. There is some demand. And so but there is also some demand from the home appliance market, as you mentioned. So, and for this, we have to lower down the cost, and so we have to look very carefully and also to manufacture quite at large scale. So it's quite complex, knowing that this technology is an optic technology that has never been mass-produced before. It was used in scientific instruments, maybe 1,000 pieces a year. So there is nothing organized. So we had to organize everything.
I think here in Taiwan, because Taiwan is famous for semiconductor industry. We have TSMC. We have a lot of IC design houses here in Taiwan, like MediaTek and Realtek. When we talk about sensors, we immediately think about semiconductor sensor. But your sensor, you showed it to me today on our way here in the bus. It was like, it looks like a piece of glass.
Yes.
And then can you describe that a little bit? So this is totally different from the semiconductor sensor.
Yes, and actually for this specific piece of glass, so it's a prism coated with a layer of gold. And at the top of the gold, we put biosensor. So putting biosensor on a gold layer is using spotting technology spotting technology comes from the biotech, biomedical industry. So we use some robots to do that. So like Engadget. So we put specific drops at specific places. But for the rest, and this we will do in France, because also it's quite strategic to do that internally. But for the rest, it happens that we were looking for manufacturer in Europe for this optic piece, and we could not find any who would commit. I mean, they were ready to do prototypes. We did 20 prototypes. It was easy. But committing to industrial scale, we could not find because they have lost the expertise. So actually, my team, manufacturing team, is in Taiwan at the moment, and they are evaluating a couple of Asian optical companies, and which are known to have
a pretty good one here in Taiwan. It's called Largan, Dariguang.
Yes, yeah, we are visiting Asia Optical actually. Asia Optical in the center of the island. But yes, so it's very important. So of course we will then have to assemble everything. And assembly is quite easy because you have to assemble this part plus LED, so light source, a camera, so and a small fan, ventilator to do the airflow. There is a microfluidic system. So the second part is not too complex, and this we can do anywhere in the world. But for the optic part, we should do it here in Taiwan, and the biochemical part we will do in Grenoble.
Yeah, so one of my imaginary use case of both Aribal and Reach Robotics is that if someday we can put a sensor of Aribal sensor into Reach Robotics, and you will be able to tell the smell, and we put it in the houses of in apartments of Taiwan, which are famous for, especially in the summer, we have cockroaches. And cockroaches, they have a certain smell, and I'm going to let Reach Robotics robots to catch the cockroaches by themselves by smelling. No, I'm just joking. Yeah. So coming back to Rich, so I think your team and Flex team is pretty much the same age, like out of school, 25, 26, something like that, right? So pretty young. On the other hand, Tristan and your partners, you guys are more experienced, and you're based in industrial city in Grenoble, so you have a lot of B2B resources. But both Reach and Blocks, when you engage with EMS companies, you're pretty young, and you're still, I remember all those long phone calls I had with you and with John, which is pretty long. I feel like I'm just going over again the whole process. When you discuss with the EMS companies, Chris, did you find that the conversation was like a little bit like there's a distance, and how do you overcome that? I mean, you can sell the dreams, like this is the future, but then there's a lot of like DVT, PVT, like kind of saying, oh, what is that? I heard it the first time. Did it trouble you? Did it trouble the EMS company?
The names, the terms, all that kind of stuff didn't trouble us so much. John, our head of operations, has a lot of experience in manufacturing. He's the most experienced in our team. What troubled us is a lot of the companies struggle to understand that we're a very small team. That everyone in the video call is everyone in the company at the time. When we were talking to a lot of these manufacturers to begin with, there was only 4 of us. And we had to explain that this is all our engineering, all design, all the software, everything involved in the company.
They don't believe it.
And they really don't believe that. And they really don't believe that we come to them looking for design help on the manufacturable side of things. We can design the robots to look cool, to kind of be the stuff of our dreams, but we can't design it to be assemblable, to be manufacturable, because we don't have that experience. And it was trying to break across that understanding between the two, that this is what we need, and we don't just need someone who can assemble a robot for us. We need someone who can say, don't do it that way, how about we do it this way? Now we can make it at the cost that it needs to be made at. Otherwise, when we first came to everyone was like, yeah, we can make this, and we'll charge you a couple of $1,000s. And we were kind of like, no, we need you to tell us how to refine it, make it softer, make it in the right places to get down to the price point.
Just to give the audience a couple of ideas. So your product is about this size, right?
Yeah, it's the size of, I'd say, a small cat.
With 4 legs. So each leg is like,
yes.
I think do you have the product with you right now? The product is...
No.
Okay, yeah. So it's like 4 legs. How many parts, how many plastic parts do you have to produce just for one product?
I don't know the exact total, it keeps going up, but we have 12 gearboxes. Each gearbox has, I believe, 5 gears. Each gearbox as well has 3 circuit boards, and a motor, a potentiometer. So that just tells you, just straight off the bat, we're looking at, say, 40 parts just for a gearbox. In total, I'd say we're probably around 100 parts.
100 parts.
Plastics, circuit boards, electronics, not including obviously everything on a circuit board. So there's a lot of stuff to fit in the box.
Yeah.
And it was getting that across as well, that there's a lot of parts, a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
It's not a mobile phone. It's not that kind of,
So
high precision with a couple of processors. This is a lot of parts.
this is especially interesting with consumer robots. So consumer robots have a lot of parts. And I mean, Taiwan is famous for EMS, ODM, OEM models for like laptops, smartphones, and used to be PC or monitors. Compared to robots, those are relatively fewer parts. So you have the PCB board, maybe you have the main board and one power board, and that's it. And then you have the plastic, and you slap it together and do a couple connections, and that's it. What happened during the process of Reach Robotics is engaging with the EMS companies, that one of the very, very big firms here in Taiwan that I introduced to Reach, eventually they called me, the guy called me and said, Jerry, I have to decline Reach Robotics because there's no way we can, just on one account he has trouble. So there's no way our tooling facility can create so many parts and still be cost effective. Because most of the tooling machines for Taiwanese firms are built for building a huge plastic, let's say the housing of the laptop or the tablets. And for them to create small parts is actually very cost inefficient. So I think for if there's any EMS friends here, like from Foxconn, from Quanta, this is something you have to look into. Once we got into the age of consumer robotics, there will be more and more, not just startups, but like big companies that are trying to do manufacturing with a lot of small pieces of plastics or even like different materials and be able to do that. And so eventually you settle, actually not settle, it's actually a very good choice. So you now are engaged with a Hong Kongese company. Without breaking the confidentiality, I mean, can you tell us a little bit of difference? So why did you eventually choose a Hong Kongese company instead of Taiwanese EMS company? And what's the main difference and how's your experience so far?
So we narrowed it down to 3 companies, 2 Chinese companies and actually Compal. But the reason why we went with a Hong Kong company in the end, we actually went with 2 Hong Kong companies, one to manufacture our gearboxes, because they're gearbox specialists, who we would have gone with if we'd gone with Compal. They would have still made our gearboxes and then Compal would have assembled everything. It was more just the experience that they have. The Hong Kong company we've gone with have experience of making robots. They already make several commercial consumer robots, and they make a lot of them. And it was more that although Compal were willing to do it at the price we wanted, we were worried that we would be the first, and we were going to be the first robot to be made. And our team is not experienced enough to deal with a new company as well. We couldn't deal with a new company and us being a new company. But there's nothing saying our kind of second robot, our third robot, once we've gone around a few times, that we wouldn't come back and explore this option. But that's what it came down to, that it's a very new market, it's a very new process, and we needed someone who already could do it before us so that we could learn from them. But once we know more, there's nothing stopping us coming back to a market where they say, hey, we can do this very well, now let us do and explore these options kind of at the price point we're looking at.
I think you guys have been doing a fabulous job with this particular Hong Kongese company, because I think 2 weeks ago, I dropped an email to the vice president, I think it was the director of this company, and I was asking him whether you'd be interested in another startup inside the Hardware Club. And he replied to me and said that, Jerry, you don't even have to ask. Any kind of startup coming from your way, we're interested, because already I think with Reach and with also Bruce Smart, they're working with already 2 of the Hardware Club members. And now, so this is one thing that's very interesting, because there's so many startups, right? So in Hardware Club, we at least review 1,600 startups per year. And so many of the hardware startups are going directly to EMS firms, but for most of the EMS companies, it's like noise. So it's very noisy. I'm not going to receive like 10 requests from young startups trying to do manufacturing with us. But in this case, because of you guys and because of Bruce Smart that are shipping very well, and so there's a trust built. They believe that the startups we send their way are all quality startups, and they're interested in talking to them. So I think that's a very interesting perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still definitely a world where who you know matters. If you just kind of turn up at their door, knock on their door, say, hey, I've got this robot, talk to me, you're not really going to get anywhere. But having someone to introduce you to anyone, anywhere is a lot more important. And things move quicker, we realized. We emailed a couple of people and it would move very slowly through the chain. And then I would speak to someone and they would say, oh, hey, I know a guy further up, I'll email them. And things suddenly move a lot quicker once you're through that door.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And I guess you and your team are enjoying the Cantonese cuisine quite a lot.
Yeah, we've gone out for dinner a lot. We're eating a lot of new things.
Probably better than the British food, I would say.
Yeah, British Chinese food is very different to what it is.
I'm kidding. Yeah. Okay, so I think Reach Robotics have, one of the challenges, you have a lot of mechanical parts. I think it's the same thing, actually surprisingly, the same thing for blocks, because when we first met blocks I think it was in March last year, so it's about almost a year and a half ago. And I think it was Alireza who had a phone call with me, and he showed me the design in photo. I said, no way this is going to pass the signal, because back then, why don't you tell the audience a little bit, what was the connector back then, and the one that I basically say, no, this doesn't work. And in Chinese, we say 打枪, I basically, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So at the very beginning, we come up with the idea to use a phone jack. So the headphone jack we use for headphones and stuff to be the connector of our design. But obviously there are issues with...
Well, I mean, to be fair, it's a brilliant... So we like entrepreneurs that were not constrained by this, because imagine if you're a former engineer, experienced engineer from Foxconn, Pegatron, or even from Qualcomm, the moment you look at the headphone jack, you say, this is not going to work, I'm not going to do something, it will never work, I'm not going to do it, no, I won't do it. And you won't be coming up with this brilliant, modularized, smart. So I like it. For me, it was just initially I saw it and I knew it didn't work. And so how did you guys proceed to?
Exactly. So the phone jet idea was really cool, because when you have a circular phone jet, you can rotate the connectors as you like. So it's a really a convenience design for us. But obviously, a phone jet, when you move it around, it causes signal interference. The structural engineering were not strong enough. So after we came to Taiwan, we come up with the new connector design, which is X-pins with using I2C and high-speed USB. So now it's really secure. Each of these modules, we have this proprietary connector, which is IP60X level of waterproof. And inside, we have our own proprietary power management system, our PCB board, our own microprocessor. So really, one small module is a very powerful computer by itself.
Just to be clear, from January CES, so from January 2015 all the way to March when I met you guys were still selling everyone, the phone jack, very cheap connectors, until you met someone from Huawei Club who said, no, that doesn't work. And then I think what's interesting is that you guys managed to start to work with Compal and co-develop a new type of, so I think one thing I really like, the first thing is that you guys admitted that, okay, we're going to change it. You didn't fool yourself saying, no, this is going to work and we're going to keep doing that. And this Jerry guy is a fool. So you guys learn. And
so we hear a lot of good advice from advisors like Jerry. And we realize the phone jet will be really problematic. So in early 2015, we come up with the new connector design. And it's really good because we don't need to go to a compound and make ourselves a fool, showing them something that doesn't work. So when we go to them, we already have a working design for the proprietary connector. And we get really good feedback from Compal, and they see our design should work. And then since then we work together on waterproofing, on making it manufacturer ready. And yes, this is the product. And this is the DVT, what we call a design validation test. So once we get all the certificates with this item,
it's a proprietary connector, right?
Yes, it's proprietary. We design it, and proprietary make it expensive, of course. But it also gives us a really unique patent, so no one else can copy us.
So this is even for me something new. So I was in semiconductor for 12 years. The last company was with Qualcomm actually in Silicon Valley, and I was very familiar. I worked in Taiwan for 10 years. Majority, let's say vast majority, 120% of the EMS companies, they hate proprietary connectors. If anything, they want you to use standard connectors, USB connectors, HDMI connectors, anything that they can get in volume and very, very cheap, because they want volume. And the fact that they actually co-develop the connector with you that is mass producible,
Yes.
that is proprietary, that in the foreseeable future is gonna be just you guys using it. And if you don't sell a lot, it's like, come on, all the money goes into the toilet.
And that's why everybody believes in the vision. Because why proprietary? We are going to be the platform. We are the ecosystem.
Yeah.
There will be thousands, if not tens of thousands, of different modules coming out to market.
Yeah.
And when we reach there, that will be the volume.
Yeah.
This is what we do. We're startups. The reason all these big companies like ODMs, Qualcomm, everybody choose to work with us is because they believe we have a future. And it's this future allow us to create this.
Okay.
Our own proprietary connectors, and we do believe we are the disruptor. We are going to sell like millions.
Okay. I'll ask you to repeat that sentence again when you ship the first million unit out of the door. Yeah. Speaking of that, you say that this is a DVT
Yeah.
sample. Okay. So already this is like a couple hundreds of units produced, or
Yeah,
like
we
100
produce
units produced.
like 500 units of
500
this.
units
But
produced.
they are all going to be destroyed because we are going through all those different validation testing. We are getting FCC and CE certificate. So we're going to burn them. We are going to throw them into water. We're going to twist them.
So there might be some bakers here. So what's your shipping date now?
Our shipping date is September.
September?
That's what
You won't
Compal
push
told
it.
us.
You won't push it later again.
That's what Compal told us, and like we have huge faith in Compal.
Yeah.
So like when they say something, we always believe them.
Yeah, and but for me, I mean, the next step is gonna be PVT. I mean, it's gonna be thousands of pieces, and
Yes.
you're gonna be stationed. You're based in Taipei, right?
Yes. So we love Taiwan. First of all, because we're working with Compal, we want the close distance and like no communication barrier. So we're moving a big part of our engineering team to Taiwan, and we're hiring. We're hiring engineers in Taiwan. So if you guys have any Android like top level, lower level experience, or if you write different kind of software applications, web design, and or if you are hardware engineers, like come to us. Like we like to talk to you. We are like aggressively hiring in Taiwan.
Yeah. Do you pay UK salary or do you pay Taiwanese salaries?
We pay a competitive salary.
Okay, better than the one that the previous government proposed. Okay. Yeah, and Tristan, so I think this sample that Fred had here is for DVT. So DVT process, you have like 100, 200 samples. And then in your case, for us, it's really, really a brand new sensor that you have to produce. And we chatted a little bit on the bus here that how are you going to develop the sort of the QA process and to ensure that the sensors will go out that will last for 7 years or 8 years with a minimum, let's say less than 500 ppm failure, field failure rate. Why don't you share a little bit of experience of developing a qualification process totally different from like semiconductor or standard EMS companies? What's your experiences so far?
So our experience is that fortunately enough, some of the components inside our sensors are quite classic. One very key, it was a 1 cubic meter piece of equipment when we started, right? We had to, it was using liquids, so we had to adapt it to gas. So this we did in 2014. So we invented the technology together with a lab in Grenoble called the CEA, which is a good technology lab. We reduced it from 1 cubic meter to a few centimeter cubic centimeters. So it was already a good step. And at the same time, we replaced every component, the light source, the camera, the ventilators, with low-cost components coming from the electronic industry. And this was a challenge. We didn't know if it would work, but it did work. So this was also anticipating the fact that we would industrialize it at low cost at some time, right? And actually, one of my co-founder is specialized in industrialization for electronic components. So from the beginning, we had this vision that if we want this sensor to be universal and accessible to all, it will have to be low cost. So we did all of that. There was one remaining piece, the optic part, which I mentioned already, for which there is no manufacturing chain. So we have to find the right person and also assemble it in a way which is actually quite specific, because it's very precision optic. So we have to go to the electronic industry, we have to go to the optic industry. As I said, we also implement the biochemical industry as well, and so make everybody work together. But so this was done over the last 18 months, and now we are at a step where we are quite confident that we found the right partners and that we will be on time. So the development process for us is starting right now, this summer. So we just raised funds to finance that, so this is done as well. And hopefully, by the beginning of next year, there will be some sensor produced at 10,000 scales.
Yeah.
So we'll see, but...
I say especially this is something that the Taiwanese EMS companies don't do very often. So it's a smell sensor.
Yes,
so it's an odor sensor.
Yes.
So when I was in semiconductor, so everything is electronic, everything is electric.
Yes.
When I develop, when I sell chips to companies like Compal or Pegatron or Foxconn, initially, so for example, my startup from 2004 to 2008, we developed HDMI chips. So back then, HDMI was just the beginning, but we were one of the first companies in the world to do that. And initially, the television makers, the DVD player makers, in their manufacturing process, using our chip with an HDMI output, they're still kind of like doing some jobs themselves. So for example, when they do testing, they will have people in the factories and just plugging in and unplugging in and see if the whole thing works. And then very quickly, they got so lazy, they say that, Jerry, can you just develop an electronic auto testing procedure inside your chip without our people even plug in anything? We don't want to use any instrument. We don't want to use any, just do it. Just give me just one light and the light up. Okay, it's passed, and then you go away. But in your case, you have to taste it when you produce each and every single unit. So,
yes.
Which means that you have to put in like odor, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So what's the challenge there?
Yes, so absolutely. So at the same time that we are developing the device, we have to develop the test. Absolutely. So and implement them. So actually, bringing chemistry into electronic manufacturing is original, but it's not too complex. The fact is that the odors are emitted by small drops of liquids. So actually, I always have some samples with me. You can see on the booth. So we just put a few drops, they evaporate, and then you can smell them. And you smell them, and so you generate the signal, the pattern, and this is a way to standardize. And then the other thing, which is I cannot really disclose because it is being patented, is also the fact that we had to develop some specific calibration.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
this calibration came from this technology, but in liquid, and we found a way to adapt it to gas.
Yeah.
So again, but the calibration actually, when you will see it, when the patent will be published in 18 months, you will see it's quite smart and quite simple. It uses another component which is inside the device, and which gives a good calibration.
Yeah.
So it was okay. But we had to invent all of this.
I think that's a very good example because many of the EMS companies here, I think if you're here, you're from EMS companies, this is the challenge for you going forward because we're seeing, if you want to differentiate yourself from the other EMS company, we see more and more cross-field, so cross different materials, different kind of like field. We're now measuring like odor, we're now measuring light, we're measuring different kind of things. And how to test them, how to calibrate them. If your competitor got it done before you do, and then they have an advantage to move into the next generation, it's not just sensor alone. So I think for all the like people like robots, they also have sensors inside, and that would really differentiate you. So I'm going to do a little advertisement here. If you are interested in working with Aribal, obviously, please approach Tristan right after the panel, and maybe you can exchange business cards. And it's going to be a very interesting and very exciting journey, and it's going to be very unique. I think I'm going to wrap up the session with maybe one final interview with Chris. So your robot is going to, by default, it's going to bump heads with each other. So if you have two robots, they're going to fight. By default, it's something that you're going to like create some impact and some movement. So we talk about testing, we talk about a little bit like DVT, but we haven't talked about really something that's very important, which is reliability. So can you ensure that your robot is out there in the field? And it's the same thing with Aribal. So you have to probably pass the 7-year lifetime test. how do you do, so maybe you're not there yet, but just give us an impression. What's your discussion with your EMS partner? How do you ensure that if the children of some of the parents here that are buying these very expensive but very, very good robots, and they're just bumping them each other like 100 times a day, and they found that after a week it died?
So that really started off with us back at Reach Robotics, that we came up with a like a modular design. Modular is very cool right now. But for the legs, you can take a leg off. It's very quick. You just pull it off. You pull a new one on. There's a quick release on there. So we started off with the design itself, and then we started talking to our manufacturers, saying, this is what we're worried about. This is where we care. This is where we want to be focused. And our gearbox manufacturer went away. They came back and said, look, this is a clutch design. Now you can yank the leg as hard as you want, and you'll hear some horrible sounds, but the leg is perfectly fine. And it does. And you pull it back, and it makes a horrible click. So that's how they started approaching it. And then we started looking at different materials. They started saying, like, this is what the toy industry use. This is what, say, will survive a drop test from here. This will survive from here. This is what we think you should put in there. We said, okay, you guys are the experts. This is why we're here. And then it really started going from there. And then they started looking at the different regulations, the different kind of rules, and saying that you need to hit these targets. And we were saying that as well, we need to be here, we need to be on that target, we need to be at this amount. And the design really started then evolving and changing to meet these demands.
Well, to be sure, I think I don't see your product as a toy. I think we talk about that very clearly. It's not a toy. If it's a robot for like adults. I imagine like the fathers here, so people who have children, they're using their children as an excuse to get one for themselves.
Yeah, we don't describe the robot as a toy. We use the word gaming. One of our problems, though, in manufacturing and then giving it to a consumer is consumers will treat everything like a toy, and we're starting to even see that now with mobile phones. Mobile phones aren't toys, but so many of them have cracked screens because people are starting to become less, I say, caring of their devices, as they become more used to them. So we really have to design our robots in such a way that once people become used to them, used to them being on the floor, used to them being around, that time you accidentally turn around and kick it, it doesn't shatter into a million parts. And that's really kind of where we have to, if we aim for toy ruggedness, but a gaming kind of technology and gaming use, then we hit the best of both worlds. So we know that it will survive a 12-year-old, we know it will survive an 8-year-old, we know that it will survive a 25-year-old, a 30 or 40-year-old who will play with these things.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So I'm going to end this session with, I'll ask each one of you to just very briefly discuss, because you're here in Taiwan, and Tristan, you actually have a booth over there. So if you're interested in Aribal's prototype and demo, Tristan actually have a booth over there. What's the number again?
It's 5444.
5444.
Yeah.
It's just over there, 5444. I'm going to ask each one of you to maybe with one or two sentences just let people here know. So we have a lot of supply chain partners here. What do you want? What do you need from the Taiwanese supply chain ecosystem? And maybe we start with Tristan.
Well, yes, so as I said, there is this optic piece. So actually you have to see our nose more like a camera than a phone, right? So very precision optics, and of course assembly of all the components, molding in a way that is robust, obviously. You spoke about the lifespans. Well, we are making it, this key optic part, we are making it a consumable eventually. Not to change every time, but to change every 3 months or every year. And to have this as a consumable means that you have to be able to remove it very easily, and this is also tricky. So designer helping us to have also this part that can be removed. So this is what we are looking for.
So cool. And Chris, I know you're working with Hong Kongese company, but it must be something you can find here. Maybe you have some expectation here in Taiwan.
Well, we actually know a lot of our components are coming from Taiwanese companies. You guys still make the best actual electronic components, but the biggest thing we need as a startup is speed. If we have to take a month just to wait for an NDR, any of that kind of stuff, anything when we wait for long periods of time, we're dying. Time is a big thing for us. We don't have any time.
Yeah.
Time costs a lot of money. We don't have any money as startups, and we can't afford to just sit around for a month like big companies. So the biggest thing for us is be able to do it. If I call you today, I want an answer today. I want to be doing something next week with you. I don't want to be waiting a month. That's the biggest thing we need from any company.
Do you expect to hire in Taiwan?
We are looking to hire in this area. A lot of our manufacturing advisors that we've gone to so far, the freelance guys, have all actually been from Taiwan.
Okay, pretty cool. And last one, so Fred, you already work with Taiwanese EMS company. What's your comment in general about Taiwan?
So first of all, because we are a modular platform, we are open hardware platform, which means any technology can come into our modules easily. And we are looking for partners who are interested to create these modules with us. So there are lots of different suppliers, sensor companies, technology companies. So if you think your technology can come into our modules and you can make it into a B2C product, B2B product, but we are a platform that allows you easily create a smartwatch to do a lot of different features and functions. Come to us. We would like to work with you together. Of course, in Taiwan, we're always hiring, especially if you are software engineers, like different kind of technology language. We really like to talk to you. So please come to us if you're looking for work. Designers, hardware engineers, all sorts. And we really like to work with more Taiwan people, and we have a booth over there. So after the show, please come to visit us, and we would like to talk to you.
What's the number of the booth?
I don't remember, but it's just over there. You'll see us.
There.
We have a really big board, so you will see us just over there, right next door.
Very, very cool. Okay, cool. I think I'll wrap up the session, and we're already a little bit late. And again, I think this is a very, very good discussion. And on my side, so we're Huawei Club, we're a venture capital firm that specializes in that investment in the consumer electronics startups mostly, and some part of the B2B. So if you're a Huawei startup and you're interested in getting investment and getting the resources from outside, feel free to talk to me. A little bit of advertisement. I'm also going to give a keynote speech at the Pi stage at 11:20. So if you're interested, you can come over at 11:20 and see what our investment philosophy is. And so with that, I wrap up the session. I'm going to return the control back to the lady. Okay, thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for our speakers. And thank you, our moderator, Jerry.